Welcome to module number 4, musts. There are no musts. I know that this one is one of the harder ones to really understand, to really embody. I have been talking about that we have time. For many, that is really hard to really grasp, even though we can understand what I'm saying. It takes time to really get that understanding within you. And I know that this one is just as hard. There are no musts. How can I say that? I've just talked about the importance of moving and eating and sleeping, and now I say there are no musts. I have talked about the needs, and yes, we should take care of our needs. But there are so many musts that we put on ourselves that actually do not help us, and they are not musts. I know this is hard to understand, and that's why we're going to talk a lot about it. So the goal of the mid-module is that you will fully understand there are no musts, only habits and choices. And sometimes when we try to learn or understand something that is very much counter what we've known before, it's good to bypass the brain a bit. And I like to do that by introducing other things than what we normally think about, and I will this time use a poem. Dust if you must. Dust if you must, but wouldn't it be better to paint a picture or write a letter? Bake a cake or plant a seed. Ponder the difference between want and need. Dust if you must, but there's not much time, with rivers to swim and mountains to climb. Music to hear and books to read, friends to cherish and life to lead. Dust if you must, but the world's out there, with the sun in your eyes, the wind in your hair. A flutter of snow, a shower of rain, this day will not come round again. Dust if you must, but bear in mind, old age will come, and it's not kind. And when you go, and go you must, you yourself will make more dust. This is a poem by Rose Milligan, and I think it's one that we can take with us. You can choose to dust if you must. You can choose to do a lot of other things as well. So, when I say there are no musts, I think about things that we consider musts in some places of the world, but not in others. And that makes me wonder if there is something that is really a must here, but if we would move here, it's not a must. Is it then really a must? Let me give you an example. When I tell my Dutch friends that in Sweden, our children, they get a cooked meal a day in school. So they have one warm meal already by the time they come home. Then my Dutch friends will say, wow, you must have so much time left over in the evenings. When I tell my Swedish friends this, they just look very confused and say, what's that got to do with anything? Why would that give you more time in the evening? In Sweden, there is a must or a habit to have a cooked meal for lunch and a cooked meal for dinner. 2 cooked meals a day, 2 hot meals a day. Normal, what everyone should do. And I know this is considerable stress for many parents to cook a good meal in the evening. When I tell my Dutch friends that they already get a cooked meal a day, they say like, then you don't have to cook in the evening. Because in the Netherlands, it's completely normal to have one small meal a day, usually lunch. Say bread, cup of soup, nothing big. And then in the evening, you eat dinner. So what my Dutch friends envision when I say that our children get a hot meal a day in school, they think like, then you don't have to cook in the evening. All you do is, you eat some sandwiches. A lot less shopping, a lot less cooking, a lot less doing dishes. So much time that you have. In Sweden, people still cook in the evening. When I have given this example, I've sometimes in Sweden got this reaction, You're not saying I should stop cooking in the evening. You can't be serious when you say should my kids just eat sandwiches? You know, they go to football training. It cannot possibly be enough. Hold your horses. I'm not saying that the solution to all the problems when it comes to time management is to not cook in the evenings. What I'm saying is that eating cooked meal twice a day is not a must. It's a habit. It's a choice. And it's your choice. As with everything in this program, you decide what to do. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing right. It's just an example that was a must in Sweden. It's not a must in the Netherlands. Then, in my opinion, that means it's not a must. It's a habit or a choice. I'm sure you can think of several things that are a must in your culture, in your part of the world. But if you think about places you've visited or about people you know who come from other countries, you will find things that you consider musts, but they don't. Let's take those away from our list of musts. They are just choices. Now let's look at time, but musts a while ago and musts today. In Sweden, say 1-2 generations ago, going to church was a must. You should definitely go to church every Sunday. There was even a time when there were so-called husförhör, where people from church would come to the different villages, go into the different cottages, and check if people knew their Bible. And if you didn't, then there was a shame on that whole household. Today, Sweden is considered one of the most secularized countries in the world. Religion has no or very little place in today's society. There is definitely not a must to go to church. So something that used to be a must is now gone. I'm pretty sure that there are musts in today's society that if you look 1 generation ahead or 2 generations ahead will be considered, why on earth did they do that? Why was that so important? And if we can already now see that some things that used to be important are not today, and then we can understand that some things that are important today will not be tomorrow, so to speak, then we can decide already today that, hey, that is not a must for me. So you're following me? Things have been important in the past, they are no more. Things maybe feel important today, will not be tomorrow. You can choose to make tomorrow already now. When we're looking at yesterday, today, and tomorrow, we can also look at our own life phases. So there have been times in your life when some things were really important, and some things are really important today. Most likely not the same things. If I take an example of my own, that when I moved into this house with my husband more than 20 years ago, we did not yet have children. And I decided, for some reason I still don't understand, that it was important to change bed sheets every week. So I washed the bed sheets once a week. When we had our 3 babies, when I had a small baby, a crazy 2-year-old, and thankfully very harmonious 5-year-old, changing sheets in 5 beds every week? No way. Well, of course, with the children, that still had to happen occasionally. They were not, diapers and getting sick or whatever. But anyway, I definitely didn't change the sheets in my bed and my husband's bed every week then. I can still remember how I could go, oh God, it feels like I'm sleeping on a beach because there was so much stuff in the bed. And then I would change the sheets. Not because it was the end of a week, but just because it was getting too much. So it was a must that I had created to change sheets every week. Then when my life changed, it wasn't as important anymore. Now, this was a fantastic reason to change my must. 3 fantastic children. Just like it can be a fantastic reason to change your glass when you get a partner, a new job, or something else that you really want. Unfortunately, we all know that there are also other changes in our lives that are not the great ones. When, when tragedy strikes, that's when our glasses change completely as well. My husband and I, we were sitting with, well, each in front of our laptops working. And then I could feel a change in the room. He didn't say anything, but I felt it. So I looked over and I saw how he was reading, his mail, and the tears were coming down his face. Now what happened? So I walked around, looked at what he was looking at, and I saw an invitation to a party to friends of ours in the Netherlands. Of course, that was great. The really sad part was that they wanted us all to come while one of our best friends was still able to. He had just been diagnosed with terminal cancer. He only had a few months left. This was a fantastic couple. Had known each other, and they were, sweethearts from when they were very young. They had three lovely daughters, and for them, whatever was in their glasses before, take it all away, start new. What they did was that they started looking into what will life be without him financially. How can they fix as much as possible so that the family will do well also without him? How should the funeral be? Where would he be buried? Those practical things. They took up a little part of that glass. And then they wanted to have all the glasses they still had left, which they suddenly knew were fewer than they had expected. They decided to go to the places they loved, revisit some of these places, as long as he was still able to travel, and then visit new places that they wanted to cherish and have as great memories. When he drew his last breath, he was sitting on an airplane on the way home from one of these trips. You know it. I know it. We all know it. There are no real musts. We know that when we stand there and we hear or know that something horrible is happening to someone we love, we don't care about the dusts in the corner. We don't care about how many activities our children go to or how well they're doing at them. We don't care about that promotion. We don't care about a lot of things that other days we consider big, big musts. There are no musts. Life is way too precious to waste on things that don't matter. Think about the things that do matter and make sure they are in your glass. There is this guru that I listen to now and then on YouTube, even though I cannot remember his name because it's a very long, strange name. But he said, if you wake up tomorrow, and that's a good distinction that we sometimes need to remind ourselves of, if you wake up tomorrow, at least make sure you're happy. Yes, I'm still here. Now, of course, living every day as if it's our last, we know that is a fantastic mindset. And I want you to have that mindset. However, it's not a very practical way of living. No, maybe many of us would do exactly like those friends I talked about who's traveled the world, and you would spend every penny and then like, whoops, I'm still around and I have nothing left. So we need to find a way of combining this mindset of, yes, I'm still here and I'm going to make the best of my life, with a practicality that, hey, I'm taking care of today and tomorrow and the next week. Find that balance and keep reminding yourself about the gift of life that you have. One way of doing that is to have gratitude in your life. That, I think, is a habit to introduce from now on. Wake up, introduce in your morning routine that I'm so grateful about, and then think about whatever it is that you're grateful for. Okay, so I have talked a lot about the non-existing musts. I have reminded us that if a must is a must only in one place of the world and not the other, it's not a must. We can decide that it isn't, or just move. If a must is a must today, doesn't mean it will be in a generation from now, just like many of the old musts have disappeared from our lives. So we can decide to take them away now. And your life phases have already changed your glass, have already changed what you consider musts. You don't have to wait for another big change in your life, be it a fantastic funny one or a tragedy, to change your glass. You can do that now. You can change whenever you want to whatever you want. So that's why we're going to look into some exercises. Now that you know somehow that there are no real musts in life, look at the ones that you listed under musts or perceived musts in earlier modules. Choose whatever amount you want, 1 or 2 or 3. Look at them and think about one. Why is this a must to me? Where does it come from? You don't have to dwell a lot into it. So I have no idea for myself where my silly change sheets every week came from, for instance. Or I remember that I used to think before kids that I did dishes, I didn't have a dishwasher, and I didn't want it to just stand there and dry in the stand. I wanted to clean it up and put it symmetrically and nicely in all the cupboards. Otherwise it looked untidy. And now I think that that's stupid. Of course I'll let it just dry on its own instead of wasting time on it. So that was a must that just disappeared, and I don't know where it came from. But sometimes it's good for you to realize, to think about, where does this come from? Is this because this is what we always did in my family when I was a kid? Or is this because I see little neighbors do it, or my colleagues do it, or whatever? Look at the musts. Why is this a must for me? Secondly, look at the same must and think, what happens if I stop doing this? Just stop. What happens if I do? Just think that whole through. Play that tape. What happens if I stop doing this? And if it's something that you say, wow, I can't stop it, then look at, can you reduce the ambition level? It's not that I have never changed sheets after I got kids. I do, but less frequently. So what happens if you stop it or significantly reduce the ambition level? Start playing with the thought, start getting used to it. What if I don't do this anymore at all? And thirdly, introduce into your morning routine gratitude. Gratitude for what you have, whatever that is. You choose what it is you're grateful for. And I know you have something to be grateful for every single day. It might not feel like it every single day, but when you think a little bit deeper, you know that you have something to be so grateful for every single day. And now you also know that you don't have to do a thing. You choose to do a thing. And that's what we're going to look into in Module 5, how to make those choices. But for now, just get used to the thought that there are no musts, that be grateful for what you have, do the exercises, and I'm looking forward to talking to you about how that all feels.